welcome to Transition Mission. Today we're going to move through Chaturanga Dandasana. When we move through Chaturanga Dandasana, that means lowering from plank pose into Chaturanga and then lifting from Chaturanga into upward facing dog. And we're going to melt in and out of that. The movement is initiated in the shoulder girdle and the scapular thoracic region. What I want you to think about, so we're not overloading with too many details here, the main one I really want you to think about for this transition mission is in regards to the 7 loops of alignment. The first one being the skull loop. For the skull loop, we move this way, the jaw back, the palate back, up the back of the skull, and then down the front of the face until you hit that jaw, which moves back again. This is a circular motion that's continuous. So think about that loop of alignment that takes down the head, the jaw back, and up the back of the skull. As you come up the back of the skull, feel that sort of lengthening as the crown of the head reaches upward. Again, a continuous motion. Now the next loop down is our shoulder loop. It moves in the opposite direction. So it comes up the chest, broadening the chest. Then it hits the shoulders, which rolled back, the shoulder blades, which move down. Then it comes up, across, through, cuts through that rib cage to begin again. Up, broadening the chest, rolls the shoulders back and down, shoulder blades come down, and then through. And again, this continuous motion. So these alone are a lot to digest, and I'm going to have you pair 3 today. The skull loop, again, up the back side of the loop for that lengthening on the cervical spine, the reaching through the crown of the head, and then that coming down and shifting the palate back. The shoulder loop coming up the opposite way, broadening the chest, rolling the shoulders down, the shoulder blades back. And one more to add for today's transition mission is going to be the kidney loop. This is right below the shoulder loop. And again, we're going to switch circular directions. Once again, it's going to match the skull loop. So the kidney loop starts below the rib cage. It comes up the upper back. And as it comes up, you're going to feel that it lengthens the low back. So this pulling up as it begins here and comes up actually stretches, as you can see, if it were to move up. It's going to move up and lengthen the low back, stretching the low back, creating space and length here. Then it comes up, it comes right underneath where that shoulder loop begins, and then it comes forward and it tucks in that bottom rib cage, tucks it in as it moves down and back to begin again. So it goes this way, coming down, tucking in, drawing in, zipping up, however you like to think about it, coming back, lifting up, lengthening that low back, lifting up, cutting through, drawing in, up, lifting and lengthening that back. Okay, I know, I said I was going to keep it simple. Those are the 3 things I really want you to take with you as we transition mission through Chaturanga Dandasana. Okay, starting that plank pose, and just first we'll check in with those 3 loops. So that skull loop, think of it moving up the back of the skull, lengthening that neck, coming forward and shifting the jaw and the palate back, shoulder loop, coming up, broadening the chest. Feel how that immediate adjustment occurs there. Broadening the chest, rolling the shoulders back and the shoulder blades down. And then immediately think about that kidney loop coming down, zip it up and lengthening the lower back. Okay, so all 3 of those put together kind of meet balance. If you focused on just the skull loop, you might be out of balance. But once you add in that shoulder loop, it connects the dots. And then you add in that kidney loop. And again, everything's starting to align and square and straighten. Now we move down, we shift forward and move down. Bend the elbows, don't go below the elbows, stay high if being at that 90-degree angle is too challenging and you have to sacrifice these alignment loops. So that rolling down and broadening of the chest is really going to help as you hit that chaturanga and then move up and through and into your upward facing dog. That shoulder loop is going to lift you up and through into upward facing dog. Then tuck the toes and we reverse out back into that plank position at the top. Now that's a lot of work. That's a workout in its own. Just moving from plank through chaturanga and into upward facing dog. So doing a few reps of it, really take a lot of concentration, especially when you're applying the loops. So remember, skull loop, shoulder loop, and kidney loop. And then keep thinking about those as you move in and out and up and down. Let's take a look. I'm thinking about that kidney loop zipping up here to come back out and lift back up into plank position. Then I check in with that skull loop, the shoulder loop, the kidney loop. As I lower, I really think about that kidney loop and the shoulder loop. And then I really emphasize that shoulder loop and then check in at the top with that skull loop as I come back to upward facing dog. All right. Thank you for joining me for today's transition mission.